And it's up.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. We back.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Another show for you, show 107. You excited?
Yes.
You don't sound excited.
Oh man, yeah.
Get excited. June 2nd, 2022.
It's just a voice. It's just a voice thing.
Oh.
Excited.
Steam Deck's in the house. Oh, yeah. But of course.
Excellent.
But of course.
Yeah, it's super cool actually.
All right, 10 seconds, sir.
Amazing. Amazing.
5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everybody. Welcome. You're having show. Corey and Mike. That's right, David. Steam Deck is here. It's June 2nd, 2022. Also, David, we're going to be talking about one of the articles you passed along this week about the environmentals for SpaceX. But for tonight's show, what do we have for you? We got Steam Deck. We got Lilium makes a transition. And we also have news on SpaceX and their conquest with the FAA and trying to get more orbital test flights out of Boca Chica, Texas. Hello, Corey. How are you on this fine Thursday evening?
I'm doing much better. We've been feeling a bit under the weather the past few weeks. We did pick up that thing going around, and we can thank that to daycare because that's the thing that happens.
The joys of fatherhood.
There you go. But we're feeling a lot better.
You know what? To this day, I have dodged that bullet. That, to all my knowledge, that bullet has been dodged. So, which is a good thing. I like that. Good to see you feeling better. Sorry that you and the whole fam, had to get it, but that's the way it goes. We are back. Sorry for the interruption. So, obviously Corey was sick, so we couldn't do a show, and that kind of sucked for a couple weeks there. But we're back, and guess what's with us? Oh, it is. It is actually here. It actually arrived. So magically, about 3 weeks ago, I got the email, and then this bad boy showed up. Which is kind of cool. So I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So we'll go into a little bit more depth on that in a little bit. Anything else we really got to talk about before we go into Steam Deck?
I don't think so. I think we can talk about Lilium, of course.
You got some Lilium stuff
going on there. We'll compare that with what's going on in the rest of the industry with them, and then some SpaceX stuff.
All right, so okay, wait. So there's a couple things. Just wanna before we get into it. It's really cool when you get the Steam Deck, by the way. When you do get the Steam Deck, there is one nice, neat feature that I did not anticipate, and that is that the Steam Deck comes in a great box, right? It's a really nice box, which is cool. When you open it up, you do get the basic average, hey, here's your Steam Deck, and, took a little picture of that. Obviously, there's a little T-Rex head by the side of that. And then next, obviously, you open up the box, and there it is, Steam Deck in all its glory. You're going places. Very simple process of opening up the deck. But there is this one thing that I thought was quite unique. When I finally got out of the packaging, you can see that Valve actually includes now to stop theft, I guess, at some point. Or maybe this was from the very beginning. I don't know. But there's this little tag that you got to snip before you actually can get your Steam Deck out of the wild, in the wild, for that type of stuff, right? So there's that, right?
Okay.
So that's just the start of the process. Okay. Now the next part is pretty cool too, because then you get, obviously, if you've got the #1 top of the line Steam Deck, right? This is it. It's there right here, right? So we'll just go right to here. This is the Steam Deck. Comes in the nice case, so I got it with the case, the 512 NVMe, which is awesome. Okay, got that extra storage in there, and then you open up the case, and the nice part is the case itself is laid out really nicely. There's little pockets of things for, your spare accessories in the back and so on and so forth, but it's nicely contoured to the deck. And then you have, obviously, now this deck, my deck here, has the D brand. I guess this is the blackout trim already applied to it, the skin that they got. And I'm happy with it, but the process was a little difficult in that respect. But then lastly, it came with the special this is the Steam Deck loincloth, as I call it. Or their cleaning solution. Right? So this is the little microfiber. But let's talk about the deck. Okay, so obviously now one of the nice things that comes with this version is the anti-glare screen, which is fully etched, which is nice. I did also, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna ask. Yeah, the screen, like viewing angles.
Okay, so
and
yeah,
things,
so
what's
you
your
can see
feel?
that I have two big studio lights right in my face here for the studio, and you can see only when they really get direct viewability on the screen would it be a reflection issue. So that's one of the nice parts.
Yeah.
So it does, and it also, I think it cuts down on when you're actually touching the screen. You don't get as much smudge, smudge marks on it because it breaks up
Right.
the oils on your fingers a little bit better, so it's not as smudgy. But
Yeah, that's cool.
a couple other things that I want to talk about, right? First off, let's talk about the build quality. So a lot of you guys are going to be, if you're already out there and you got a Steam Deck, you're like, oh, what's it like for the average gamer? And this is what it's like for the average gamer. This thing has 0 deck flex, number one. The build quality is amazing. It is solid. I mean, the thing is solid. You have the feeling that you could drop it a couple of times and you might get away without breaking it. Okay, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
All right. Also, the gaps in the plastic are all tight. So there's
cool.
there's no creaks. There's no squishiness inside. If you apply some direct force to the controllers or you kind of twist the deck a little bit, nothing like that. And there's nothing loose.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't hear B buttons or A buttons rattling. You don't hear any of the buttons clicking away like on a loose section or nope. It's pretty solid in that respect.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Let's talk about something else. So let's talk about feel, right? Because I was really astonished. I thought the thing was going to be way more dense when I got it out of the box. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up some of the specs just on this really quick because obviously we know what they have for the D-pad, the thumbsticks, the microphone, the touchscreen. You guys have heard about all that stuff. The trackpads are pretty awesome. Okay, but one of the nice, neat things that I thought was really strange, and you could look up all these specs that you want, but this is more about the look and feel, how you're going to interact with this thing on a daily basis. The weight of this is about 669 grams, okay, which comes out to about 1.5 pounds. All right, so how does that compare to what you and I would think of if you don't have one of these in your hand? How would you compare that to your average gaming experience?
Right.
Okay, so the Elite 2 from Xbox with all of its accoutrements, everything attached. Okay, this weighs in at 345 grams, which is roughly 0.75 of a pound, 3/4 of a pound. So you take two of these, spread them out over this distance, and you have roughly, if you see these two put together, right? You see this right here?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the density feels very similar to holding an Elite controller, but the way that it's bridged, the way that the weight is bridged across the middle of the deck, it doesn't feel that heavy, but it feels not necessarily dense. But you realize when you have it in your hand, you could actually go for a long gaming session on it, and it's not going to cramp your hands. You're not going to be sitting there going, this is too heavy. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, you got to remember, that's 2 hours of primetime gaming in your hand, right? With quality titles that, pretty neat, right? That's a nice feature.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, the buttons, they are top-notch. The sticks, I found a little overly sensitive. The touchpads themselves, I think, are a tiny bit overly sensitive. I would prefer to have them a little bit more dialed in towards my own personal taste. That's just the me thing, right? But here's the other nice part, okay? The interface. The interface is fast. It is snappy. Oh, I got to put my code in because I put this on just today. So when you're inside of games and things, right, and you touch the buttons, the interface is actually really snappy. Okay? Yeah. It's got a lot of flair to it. However, there's a couple of things that I don't get completely about the deck. And that just happens to be that the Steam menu houses some quality menu items, but there's a system settings on there. But the 3-dot menu, okay, also has some system settings. These system settings are more game specific and might be ones that you go to on a more regular basis. But the other one has them kind of buried down. And I think that that's the only breakdown that I would say that between the library and the Steam actions that you can do between the two buttons, that I thought that maybe you should just have all the settings on one side. So far, that's my only thing, right? And that's really my biggest gripe about the Steam Deck. Now the last part is, what's it like to game on the Steam Deck? And obviously I'm going to try to make a bigger video on this one, but the last part is the gaming experience. First off, huge learning curve. Okay, because if you've gone from mouse and keyboard, if you've gone from, say, the form factor of this, and this is what you've been gaming with all the time, and now your hands are like this, or you've come from a Switch. If you come from a Switch, great, awesome. You're a little bit more used to this, but it's a little weird to be playing games like Circuit Superstars. I'm a big fan. Played it with this all along, okay, on my computer, right? This is actually linked to my computer or my Xbox. When you play on this game format and with your hands a little bit farther, apart, and you're actually trying to game and keep the same consistency that you had, I found the sticks to be slightly oversensitive comparatively to where my hand position was, because normally you rest the game the game controller or something like this, right? But now you're kind of holding this thing out on a table like this a little differently, so your hand position is different, right? So big learning curve. Other games that I put on here, like RimWorld, has now got full support. I'm a little hesitant to use RimWorld because I don't know where all the buttons and keys are for things that I would normally do through mouse and keyboard, and I don't want my, some of my guys to die yet, right? But games like Carrier Command make great transitions. Dirt, great transition. There are some games that transition very, very well, and there's others that there's going to be a steep learning curve. Now, one thing that could highlight all this for everybody, I can't say this enough, is get your hands on Desk Job. It's free. Okay, it's in the Valve Half-Life library, so to speak. It follows the same principle of the games that they've produced, like Portal and Portal 2 and so on and so forth.
Okay, cool.
There's a lot of humor in it, but it's basically a showcase of what the deck can do. But it is phenomenal, because once you finally realize that the amount of inputs that you have in the device, and I do mean this wholeheartedly, you have the touchpads, you have the thumb joysticks, you have the D-pad, you have the buttons, you have the scuff buttons, or the the underdeck buttons, you have the shoulder buttons, then you have the touch screen, and then you have the tilt feature, which, if you didn't know any better, for some games would be completely irrelevant to you, because you would almost forget that it exists if you didn't know that it was out there again. So you have a lot of options, but again, that steepens the learning curve of how to use the actual deck, right?
Yeah.
So Corey hasn't had a chance because he got the thing, but he will have a chance to get his hands on it. And I'm going to do a little bit more in-depth stuff with this thing, I think, coming up. But for average gamers, if you don't have a portable gaming solution right now, and you're into Steam Deck, and you're into Valve, and you're just into Steam in general, you got a big library.
Yeah, Steam libraries, right?
Totally worth it. Side note, Unix is kick-ass on this thing. In desktop mode, to finally have, not Unix, Linux. Right?
Yeah, Linux. Yeah.
Linux is kick-ass. All right. I was more enamored with the fact that I got this thing on a dock, got it into a Linux environment, and was like really poking around with it. Put the Xbox Gaming Cloud links in there, so now I can use those. And it's really like having two libraries in one. And if you're on Wi-Fi and you want to play some Xbox games, flawless experience. Really, really good.
That's cool. Yeah. So, that's cool.
More to come on Steam Deck, but just wanted to give you guys a quick 10-minute rundown on the deck itself. Average layman's terms. You could go look at all the other reviews out there. That's fine. We're not looking to make that type of review. We're trying to give you an idea of what it's like to actually have the thing in your hands, and for the things that would appease you to do long gaming sessions, gaming in bed in the morning before the kids get up. Perfectly suited for that. Just note, any child that sees you with this in their hand will want to play with it, because it's like the ultimate portable gaming solution.
Yep.
So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Sorry, I went on a big ramble. Now,
no,
are you still interested in getting a deck? That's what I want to
know. I'll always say yes, because it's a portable gaming solution, and we had so much fun with our Switch, which actually was what I was gonna say. Whenever I can meet you and play with that, I know your wife's got a Switch anyway, but we've got one too, and. When you mentioned, how having your hands apart from each other, I remember that this is a while back before, I had so many different game consoles, but I remember the one that was the most uncomfortable for me to use was the PS Vita.
Yes.
There were some cool games on the PS Vita that I really had a good time with, but holy moly, dude. My hand, it's not meant for adults. It's really for kids, and man, playing on that thing for literally your hands cramp and you just can't. So that's cool to see that. So, but I do want to compare the ergonomics versus the Switch. And actually, the only thing I'll maybe say, and then I'm done with my whole thing, it was a cool part with the Switch, just to compare and contrast a little bit, is you can, obviously slide the controllers off and pop the screen down on the dock or even on the table. or wherever, but then the controllers themselves will slide into. You can get a pro. I think it's
the little pro
not a
grips.
pro controller, but it's an adapter. It's an adapter, and you can slide them in, and then it's like a bit more economic. But anyway, we'll add it to our next conversation. But yeah, I'm interested to just obviously check it out.
Thing, right? I've already hooked it. Right, so I put it to a mouse and keyboard. I hooked it up to a standard dock that I use, one that I use for my iPad Pro when I'm traveling, and it worked flawlessly. Picked up the mouse, everything came on there. So now I'm really interested in what I'm going to use it for is other things like light game, desktop gaming, because I don't want to get in the rig all the time when I game. I don't want to have the triple screens running. It's not every day that I want to be sunken in the chair, and the ergonomics of that is a little different for other types of games. Even though I've pulled long sessions on like World of Warships and RimWorld on that thing. It would be nicer to be in an environment like here where I don't have to crawl in and out of the thing like an F1 car and just get a drink or something and come back and sit down and
Is there I don't know this, so I'm asking, is there native VoIP, or is Discord got a native overlay runs over the OS?
I haven't tried that yet. I've used only the Steam peripherals, so the Steam internal components, and I'm pretty sure that I could probably find a way to put in Discord or some other one that works. I know that using the Xbox Cloud app, the menu bar is sunken in there with the Xbox button, so all you have to do is touch up on the touchscreen, and it will bring up your friends list and do everything as if you're on the Xbox. So I haven't even tried that yet. I haven't tried any multiplayer gaming with it yet. Everything has just been internal. So I'm going to explore, because in desktop mode, I'm assuming there's going to be a Discord version that I can install. And once that happens, it'll just be run Discord in the background and go on with gaming, because...
I mean, knowing Steam and Valve, there must be. I mean, I'm saying this because I haven't looked it up myself, and you guys watching the video later may be like, yeah, duh, guys, they've already said this, or XYZ, because Discord is so, like, I don't even know what you want to say. So...
yeah, here you go.
Prevalent in desktop gaming. There's only a few, TeamSpeak and but Discord's way up there, of course. So, yeah.
Oh, so the Steam Deck has a full version of the app. Enables you to join the same voice channels, text chats that you would in the desktop.
I was gonna say it must have.
There
it is right there. I can see it's a plugin. Okay, see, I mean that's just
Look, we know it's not the greatest, Steam Deck review on the face of YouTube. We understand that. There'll be more about it. But the thing is, just excited to have it. Starting to get into mobile gaming in this genre, and for me, just being a tech junkie, it's just a nice acquisition.
Yep, cool. So, I'm good. Yeah,
waited a year for it, so
amazing.
It'll be a year in like a month. So there you go. Hey guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Just an average, take on Steam Deck, and let us know what you think. So there's that. All right. With that said, Corey's gonna kick off another conversation here with the folks at Lilium about them making some successful test flights here. So with that, Corey, take it away.
Cool. Hey, so this next one comes to us from New Atlas, and it's checking in with Lilium again, one of the eVTOL manufacturers that are leading the way around the world. We know Joby's up there, and there's a few other big players, of course, but Lilium is certainly in that conversation. And this one says that Lilium claims that their eVTOLs passed a landmark milestone for them called transitioning to main wing mid-flight or forward flight. So basically, this is from New Atlas. There's an article there too. I did go and look at the press release they put out. That's down in the description below as well. You guys can see that basically that was from the 31st of May. They announced that their tech demonstrator Phoenix 2 achieved what they're calling main wing transition. And so if you know a little bit about Lilium, they've got these fans in these the flaps, they're calling them. They call them on the aft portion of the wings. And those provide, of course, all the up until now vertical component of lift for hovering flight. And now with this transition, main wing transition, they are beginning to move from fully vertical flight or hovering flight to horizontal flight. And then with that, the airflow begins to move differently around the wings and the aircraft itself. And what they're doing is basically saying this is the point in time where the airflow over the wing and over the flap is smooth, and now it follows the shape of the airfoil. Thus, the wing itself now is generating lift, not just the fans. And so that's obviously that is a big milestone.
Big deal.
And that is significant. So that's really what this all says, and it is something to mention. Yeah, I mean, Mike, what do you think?
I'm going to play the video. Do you mind if I play the video? All
Oh
right,
yeah,
so
have at it. Yeah.
let's go ahead and we'll see if we can get this video up here because they do go through a pretty decent explanation here. So let's just take a look.
Generally speaking, transition is considered the transition from hovering, so vertical flight, to horizontal flight. On a flight physics level, the transition is really when the flow attaches on the top of the flap. So before that, the flow that goes over the flap is turbulent, detached, and then at some point it becomes smooth and actually follows the shape of the flap. And that's when we say, okay, the flow has now attached, and that's what we call transition. And that is visualized then by the tufts. When the flow attaches, the tufts become perfectly straight.
In a recent flight, we achieved flow attachment for a few seconds, and it was a really good step in our progress. The aircraft behaved perfectly. The next step is to continue with the speed and demonstration of our other program goals so that we can see the transition across the entire wing. After that, we want to also see the entire canard, and then we will have demonstrated the full flow attachment for this aircraft.
Yeah, so let's break that down, okay? So why is this a critical milestone? Like Corey said, trying to make that transitional flight is a big deal. So one of the things that helicopters and their engineers had to basically figure out was translational lift and effective translation ETL, okay? So basically it was when the most horizontal air component entered the disc at the front portion, then went through the back portion, and all the flow was actually from front to back through the rotor disc, right? So and translational lift was a little different. That was actually when the front of the disc was operating in this lifting component of air, but the rear of the disc wasn't, and it would often cause you a little bit of roll to one side or the other, depending on which direction the rotor disc was traveling, right? So why is this big and a huge step for Lilium? Because with these nacelled engines, the way that they work, the way that this flow has to go over the wing, at some point you've got to literally step off the thrust. So you're being held aloft by all this thrust from these little micro propellers. And suddenly that thrust is either going to be below you or behind you, right? And that transition moment, you suddenly have to go from, well, I trust that we're going to make this jump from hovering flight to forward flight. And when we do this, we're not going to fall out of the sky. So their transition and their process has to be slow. It has to be methodical. They have to pay attention to the physics of the entire equation because you're going to put passengers on this. The last thing you want to do is transition from a direct hover flight to forward flight and have the thing drop 100 feet out of the sky and people feel uncomfortable until it picks up forward momentum. Okay? Helicopters are prone to dipping the nose when this takes place through translational lift, through effective lift. It's kind of a weird transition, and we know enough that we have to hold forward airspeed in order to continue that translational lift to ETL. So big step for them. It actually is. It is pretty big. But now here, I'm going to ask you a question. Companies like Joby are already making this happen. They're already through this point, and that's a boon to them that they've already wrecked an aircraft doing high speed testing. So this is a big thing for them.
Yeah, actually, that was something I mentioned when we were reading this before the show started. I was like, okay, I know Lilium's a big player, Joby's a big player, there's a few of the big players, but but Joby's like already doing a bunch of test flights, as you mentioned, even some high-speed test flights. And I mean, everybody is developing at different rates, but again, are all trying to do the same things and get into this eVTOL market.
Yeah.
And these two, Joby and the Liliums, are not the short haul guys. We're not talking like eHang.
No.
Which has vehicles that do already fly and already flying passengers, but they're short. The distances are not meant to be the same length of and speed and distance that these like Joby and even the Lilium are doing. So, but I think Lilium has always seemed to, as we said in the beginning too, Lilium always presents themselves very well.
They do,
and they're definitely looking to have a very clean design, whether it's avionics we've talked about before in the past. We talked about the avionics inside as well, but they're looking to take. I think it's one of these where they want to do it right and not have anything that's a black eye on the record, of course, as any company would want to in aviation, obviously. But I guess I'm just thinking like rapid iteration. There's like rapid iteration and constructive constructive learning, and then there's like the other players. Let's say traditional, like let's say Boeing and even let's go NASA, right? They want to test,
right?
and fly, and it just works. There's no like test and it might not go well.
Well,
So I think maybe Lilium's just looking to do that. But I mean, like I said, this is a milestone. So it's something that and like you said too, it's interesting or not interesting, but it is important. They mentioned controllability
through that
in their
phase.
video too, right? Because as Mike mentioned, this vehicle has been flying vertically, and all of the vertical component of lift that is holding its weight away from the Earth has been provided straight in the vertical plane by these fans. And at some point, it needs to go forward. But when it goes forward, they need to offload that vertical component of lift to the wings, and allow the fans to provide the horizontal thrust now. And that's something they need to sort out, which they're doing.
Which brings a question to my mind when you're talking about that, the vector diagram, right? So one of the things,
very much so.
So there's four forces when we're talking about lift. We have lift, weight, thrust, and drag, right? So basically, weight operates, differentially from, in this particular case, which is thrust, which is going to be vertical, which is not going to be on this horizontal component all the time, right? So thrust is going to be a variable at this point. So that means in the vector diagram of lift, not to get too geeky on you, that means that there's going to be another part of the vector diagram that's going to be in motion during this translational moment. Okay, so it's critical for a company like Lilium to nail this. It's important. And look, for me, what I'm looking for is, if I'm looking at it from an investing standpoint, they're making slow, methodical steps. JetUpTerra's already got pictures of them doing lots of translational lift with their devices, because they have a rotational thrust vector that actually works pretty reasonably, right? So, and here's where we're going to see a divergence between eVTOLs and other manufacturers that have two different types of lift. Lilium falls into a category that they do have a directional amount of vectored thrust that they can control. Okay.
Yeah.
Other manufacturers,
the whole thing hinges.
Yeah. So they can actually physically move the thrust vector, right? Where other manufacturers don't have that level. Okay.
Who we just talked to 3 weeks ago, because we compared obviously JetUpTerra, which does have an ability to move nacelles around on a few other designs, but there was the one we talked about the same
it was imitation. It was imitation JetUpTerra.
What was that?
They had Jet something or other. I can't remember. Don't put me on the spot. Now I gotta actually look it up. Go ahead, talk some more. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember that the other company was using. I believe they weren't Fowler flaps, but they had things kind of like that, where they directed the airflow, but the actual generating the power, the unit, their fan generating power didn't rotate like Lilium's do, and Jobbies too do. They have, I think it was JetX that actually physically move the direction of the rotating component. They physically move, and I think while you're looking that other thing up, I'm just trying to maybe make a comparison for some people that may still want one. If you guys know anything about tilt rotors, tilt rotors that have lifting bodies as well, do the same kind of thing, same kind of transition. Anything that they would have take off completely vertically, all of their thrust is being made to lift as to counteract weight, and they're just kind of hovering there, if you want to call it that, right? And then they need to, for various means, change that vector to a more horizontal component. But when they do that, they need to increase the total amount of thrust to maintain altitude, or have some airflow now go over, begin to flow over an airfoil, a lifting body, and that helps offload the extra lift that is required to now go forward or go in a motion other than just hover.
Which is a speed variable, right? So that speed variable, which nobody knows, is that quotient right now for each aircraft. So here's the thing. For each aircraft, the size of their wings, the amount of vectored thrust that they have, okay, and the weight that they're trying to sustain, that's going to equate to a speed at which that translational lift takes place for them. And it's going to be different for a lot of different manufacturers. My guess is, though, for most, it'll be roughly still helicopter speed, somewhere in like that maybe 25 knot speed, but probably maybe even a little bit on the higher side to 30, depending on how much surface area they're really depending on that wing to offload from the actual directional thrust. So yes, lots of complication, in that conversation, but big gain for these guys, right? Big for them.
Yep. stuff they've all modeled. The shape of the airfoil. That's all stuff they've taken into account. And of course, like they mentioned, video controllability and how in a controlled manner they can do this is totally important.
Key.
But
yep.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Got anything else?
No, I'm good on that one.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks so much. That was again just Lilium. Some updates on Lilium. Thanks so much for the likes, shares, subscribes. You guys know the deal about how YouTube works. Thanks so much for the support. And yeah, please put your comments down below what you think about Lilium or any of its other competitors, or anything you'd like us to talk about too. We put in the comments. That's where we pick up your ideas. And yeah, thanks so much.
All right. So this last one comes from a viewer, David. So he sent me this one the other day, and it's actually one that really impacts what's going on here at the Space Coast and how the space program is going to evolve as the competition for who will host the first orbital flights of Starship will be either here at, in Titusville, Cape Canaveral area, or if it's going to be Boca Chica, Texas, right? That's a pretty big one. So this one comes from, what is it, Teslarati, their website.
Yep.
Pretty cool. They're saying basically SpaceX Starbase environmental review is inches from the finish line. And the FAA basically punted their final decision, I believe, to June 12th, saying that basically that they've gotten a lot of their information down right now at this point to looking at or maybe it's June 13th. They're looking at migratory birds and some other impacts of the wildlife in the area. They've completed some other various aspects of it. Elon Musk basically is famously being ticked off by this process of it taking so long because as Boca Chica being the developmental site for Starship, it's kind of annoying for him not be able to achieve at least the first orbital flights out of that area because, as he stated about 3 months ago, R&D is going to be completed in Boca Chica, but the final resting home for launches and everything else going forward will be right here at Space Coast USA, Titusville, Florida. So kind of interesting that this has been one of those things that I know Musk is hungry for. He's really making like big jump for making this happen, but it's a wait and see. But they're saying it's close now. It's close. So your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. You guys know we've been following this thing at Boca Chica the whole time, really, and we're just as excited as everybody else to see the initial tests for the orbital test for Starship. As if you guys aren't unaware, right, they're trying to take off from Boca Chica and then go to actual orbit and then do a splashdown over, almost all the way around the Earth and a splashdown off the coast of Hawaii. And as Mike said too, yeah, eventually he's planning on moving the whole op to Cape Canaveral. There's a whole bunch of infrastructure already going in over there. We could put some videos on that out if you guys want to, but it's super exciting because obviously we're looking forward to it. But yeah, we would hope that they could get some more testing done over Boca Chica because that's been the plan. Yet that Boca Chica is not a launch base. They put their thing there, and Cape Canaveral's been launching rockets for a long time, and that's kind of why it kind of just works there.
Well, he's already got. So here's the thing: he's already got the clearance to do it from Canaveral. He's already got all these environmentals complete. So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. It's Cape Canaveral. Like we launch rockets here, and it is a national seashore, by the way. There is birds and things around that are protected, but that's all been looked at
for a long time
already,
and there's also a lot of birds and creatures out there that might be deaf sadly from rocket loud noises, which sucks, but it happens.
It is really loud.
So let us know what you think in the comments, folks. Just a quick update there on SpaceX and what's going on. I think at this point you're going to see at least 1 or 2 orbital tests from Boca Chica, and then maybe the first, I would imagine, and then you're going to see maybe the first commercial goes right here off the coast. And I would imagine that any manned attempt would be here off the coast as well.
I would imagine that would be because all the infrastructure is here as well as far as manned launches go, rescue and all that.
I think so. James asked in chat, when do you think it's going to happen? Elon Musk said that he would like to have seen this program up and running and have the first orbital launches here by December 2022, this December. But I'm not sure how much that's really impacted his real plans right now, how far behind they are with this, with the environmentals from the FAA. It's an unknown quotient as to how really deeply impacted they are.
Yeah, they are still making changes, as you'd imagine, to Starship. The plumbing, I've seen some videos on that. The tiles, they're still making changes to the Starship, but of course it hasn't actually flown in orbit yet. So Elon's already said, don't be surprised. I don't know verbatim, but don't be surprised if we lose a few. If you guys, follow this at all, okay, they blow things up, but they always learn something and they keep coming back. So we're definitely excited to hopefully see them as everybody else
and the
launch
noise.
these things.
I can't wait for
soon.
that noise of what is it, like 29 Raptors? It's gonna be amazing.
I think that's actually one of the things. I think they may go into 33. If I'm
that
not
might be
mistaken, I think that's
So
what I saw.
33 Raptors. Nice.
But,
That's gonna be pretty intense. Not like camping. Get it? Intense. Okay.
Intense. You wouldn't want Raptors at your campsite
not either. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll see how far Elon makes it, and then we'll go on to some comments here. James is saying, how are you guys liking your new graphics cards? The 3080 is superior. Only thing that I will say is over my 2080 Super, it runs about 20 C hotter, right? Maybe 18 to 20 C hotter. So, but
I'm running about 10 degrees cooler C, but I'm finding that in games where I'm still pushing limits, I'm running up against my CPU, which is no surprise.
For
honestly.
you now, yeah.
But my GPU is great. So yeah, thanks for the.
Yeah, you got the. Well, you got a
perfect.
2080 Super in there now, so you got to go.
Yeah, no, it's
now
good,
I've noticed on racing games like iRacing, I used to be frame capped at about 87 frames, frames per second, and my screens go to 144 hertz. The AOCs, the curved AOCs, which nice enough now I can see 144 hertz easily in some rendering environments, and my minimum frame rate in iRacing usually drops into the 90s to the 80s. Sometimes in the 60s, sometimes, very rarely. Other games that I've been blown away by with the 3080 Super, 3080, is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is like burying it at like 90 FPS on triples, which is
that's saying something, man. Honestly, I mean,
that's pretty impressive.
I've seen whole articles written to how to set up the DLSS and all the settings you got to go through to try to get it like working really nice. But yeah,
RTX.
And
then lastly, cool. So James asked that he missed the actual Steam Deck. So here it is. This is not the original color because this is wearing the D brand. Sorry, I put a couple of smudges on already. This is running the D brand skin on it. So I've already put that on there. Actually, I will say this: the D brand stuff comes in this great huge envelope, which is kind of awesome, with their skin stuff on it. And then inside you get the 2 screen protectors, which because I wish these screen protectors were not as shiny. That's why the only reason why I haven't put them on yet. I paid for them, but I haven't put them on yet. But then again, I haven't really put the Steam Deck out in the super wild. The other thing about it, again, build quality is fantastic. It comes to life really quick from sleep mode, which is nice. And then,
you can't dual boot.
I haven't tried it yet. But eventually I might. But it's really, so far, really impressed. I did put Deep Rock on there, a couple other games. I don't know what personal information I'm nothing. So that's kind of cool. So what do I have on here right now? Installed, I have Desk Job, I have Astroneer, I have Carrier Commander, Circuit Superstars, Deep Rock, and then I got Dirt, and then a bunch of You Don't Know Jack games. So and those are pretty awesome. And then I have Star Wars Squadrons and then Simple Rockets. Because why wouldn't and RimWorld. Why wouldn't I have Simple Rockets on there? But the interface is, like I said, the interface is pretty smooth. Battery life, there was an update this morning we got, and battery life seemed to increase actually nicely as well. And one of the nice parts is when you go into this performance menu over here, all you do is touch performance, and there's a really nice thing where you can bring up your on-screen performance, which will give you a little FPS counter up in the corner on all games, right? That's kind of neat. And then you can go down and configure the game, how many frames you want, how you want it to render. You can have a game-specific profile, so when a game-specific, one that you specifically want comes up, you can go ahead and do some stuff with that too. It tells you your capacity on the diagnostics, time to empty and discharging, what rate it's at. And then you can go ahead and, this is kind of neat, you can show this performance overlay in Steam, so as you want, you can basically come back up here and then show your performance overlay, and it will tell you specifically what cores are active, what cores are not, what information is being used on the batteries,
cool.
how fast the fan is going, the fan speed, and a bunch of other things. So that's kind of unique.
So PC enthusiast
Pretty
dream.
much. I mean, they definitely knew how to reach their market, right? They knew what they were doing when they built this thing to make it a little bit more appealing towards not just the guy that wants the homebrew, Valve Steam market.
Do you foresee it being upgradable enough to be a thing?
Yes. So here's 3 things that I figured out about the Steam Deck and what the real genius of what's going on with Steam Deck is. First of all, it's not a mobile gaming device. What it is, it's a Linux gaming device that Steam really wanted to be able to have an in-house Linux environment, and they just happened to make it mobile, and they sold it. So the same way that Elon Musk sells you a car, but he's actually selling you a neural net computing device, okay? They're selling you Linux, right? The second part of it is now iFixit came out with all their codes and everything else. It's saying basically you will be able to upgrade this thing. From the fact that from day one, Valve turned around and made it appealable to open the Steam Deck. They showed you basically how to open it and what you could replace. Tells me that at some point in the future, I do see this as just being the form factor. This is the case, okay? The next Steam Deck, I don't think is going to look anything different than this because the form factor shouldn't change very much unless they find some sort of ergonomic disaster where people don't want to use this anymore. But upgrading the screen, definitely. Upgrading the processor or the motherboard, definitely. The fact that there's, the ability to really make changes and they announce that information so quickly, I think that is their ultimate goal. That my thought is the design of this is nearly flawless. Even these scuff buttons where you forget that they're down here and underneath, they're great. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the case. This is the way this thing's going to look for a long time. Maybe 10 years from now, they change the case and that's about it. But I think there's a lot of longevity in basically changing the guts. So.
Nice. So your dream setup is being on the go with Starlink and a Steam Deck
at some point. Now
always connected.
Now
to
here's
cloud?
the thing. I would also imagine that it's in their best interest at some point to release a motherboard that houses a SIM card. Okay, that would be the only thing that I would see that would be different, is that if you wanted to have onboard wireless on the device. Now, a lot of people might say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You could just hotspot it to your phone." All right, I understand that, true. But for some of us geeky nerds, we don't want a hotspot, right? We just want data. Yeah. We just want to, throughput and use the device.
You want it native on the
native on board. But so far, the Wi-Fi transition speeds that that I've seen are great. Really to the point where I have to say, when you get Xbox Cloud configured on there, it's a simple Reddit. You go through, you edit like two lines of code, you download the icons, you put them on there. Basically, once you put it on there, where I'll show you guys this real quick. So there's a neat feature on there. So basically, when you come over here to your other installed libraries, right? You just go over here, and if you want, you just touch this bad boy. I got to do this from the hard way. And look, all those banner, you can do the artwork for it and all the other stuff that you want. And you just simply hit play, and voila, it will bring up the cloud gaming on Xbox, like you're sitting there doing it from someplace else, and there's your library.
That's pretty awesome.
So it's all there, and then you can just go through and use the thumb pads to scroll through. You select the game that you want out of your library, and you're ready to rock and roll. And the cloud gaming is phenomenal. As long as you have a decent internet speed around, I literally felt like it, with the exception of playing some games like maybe MLB The Show, where there's a little bit of latency here and there. Most games, if you're just doing some exploring and stuff like that, you're not going to notice it. Unless you're doing multiplayer Halo, you're not going to notice it. If you're playing single player campaign, you're good to go. So.
Yeah. That is something I want to try out when I get close over to your place or whatever, is see if we can log in multiple devices and play crossplay, and just see if we can find any discernible lag. I know we'll be on the same network, but it'll be going through servers elsewhere. We'll see what kind of tests we can come up with.
Yeah, that should be cool. All right, folks. Well, that's all we got time for tonight. I got to do some edits. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all the folks that have tuned in and commented tonight. We look forward to getting back to you guys real soon with another episode. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks
all
so
right,
much.
Take care, guys. We'll get back to you real soon. Bye-bye. Later. Show 107 in the books. Oh, and a tiny bit long on that one.
107.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody in the comments. That was awesome.
Yes.
See you guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.